Om. 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 Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्ददामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी।
नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दाय तपत्रनेत्रः येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. Gita, you want to sing? सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः.
Very good. Thank you. So we are in the chapter of 13 where we are talking about Jnanam. Jnanam we always understand as knowledge, but here we are in that section where Jnanam is also considered as a means to the final truth, which is truly ourselves. And in this regard, I think we have this freedom to this knowledge. We have freedom to that knowledge which is truly ourselves. But we don't know that we have that freedom, and we have been living our lives in such a way that we've been looking for, say, happiness somewhere else. And that is a kind of knowledge that is really blinding us from knowing our true self. And this is why this particular section, where we've already done two values, amanitvam and adambitvam, and we just entered into ahimsa last time, is where today we'll be going into a little more deeper. So let's go straight to it. And again, just to point out, this is, as I said, the pyramid of values where we are going from the values which are more, in our mind, right? The mind, which is not just a friend, but also can be an enemy. And the values are really the step ladder which takes us away from being an enemy to really helping us. So we did this. We are going to be doing this aspect of ahimsa today. So I'll just go straight to that. I know there's a lot of slides which we covered last few times. And sorry, Mantambitvam. Okay. And now when we come to ahimsa, okay, so how do we understand ahimsa? I mean, it's such a common value, at least with amanitvam, adambitvam, I know the words are a little, something that we have to get hold of, but ahimsa, how do we understand?
Hari Om.
Non-violence.
It is
Non-violence. Yes.
Non-violence.
Yes.
thought, deed, and action.
Thought,
So,
deed, and action. Yes.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
everything should be not harmful.
Exactly. And I'm glad you didn't say one word, which is alignment, which we will come to also as another value.
Mhm.
But you're right. So ahimsa means non-violence, and it is basically not injuring other living beings. This is important. Sometimes we may say, okay, if I hit a stone or something, is that also non-violence? No, any living being. So himsa means injury and or violence. And of course, when we talk about living beings, we are always surrounded mostly by human beings. So we think that it's only against human beings that we shouldn't be non-violent, but it's actually living beings, all kinds of living beings, plants, I mean, all the way up to birds, animals, human beings, everything. And of course, this is at the three levels, as Amma already pointed out. It is at the level of thought, word, and deed, like at the end of mind, manasa, then through vak, through speech, and through deeds. So, in a sense, we have really these three weapons within us, which, we tend to unknowingly or maybe sometimes knowingly use to hurt others, you know. And so one may ask, so why are really we given these three instruments, right? Isn't just me without this, wouldn't that have been enough? But in some areas, we may have to use it in a positive sense also. For example, when a child is growing, when a young child is growing, and he really doesn't know what fire is. So at that moment in time, when the child is going towards a fire, and as much as I'm trying to tell the child not to go towards it, if the child doesn't listen, then I sometimes may use my physical hand, to give him a little bit of a slap or something, without it, of course, being abusive or anything. But that cannot be called as himsa or violence. Another example is a surgeon. Okay, a surgeon who is amputating the leg of a patient, and so he has to use a scalpel, he has to use all those equipments. Now, is that himsa? Not really, right? So the instruments are given to us, these three instruments, for doing good in the world, to, for example, to take out weeds in our life, right? So these weeds which tend to harm the ecosystem, we have to remove, and that is why we have this thing called himsa. So whenever we see this, we have to remember, so ahimsa essentially means where we are looking at absolutely no harm at all these three levels. So in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, right? So there we have this uh, five things which are mentioned as ignorance, arrogance, desire, hatred, and fear of death. So whenever we cause any of these kind of afflictions or kleshas, klesha is again a word from Patanjali Yoga Sutras, we are actually injuring that person. So when we do not cause any of these kind of afflictions, then we are actually demonstrating ahimsa or non-violence or non-injury. So, in a sense, whenever we are in the company of people, whenever we are doing this one, when I'm not trying to be arrogant, when I'm not trying to impose myself with my own desire, when I'm not trying to create that fear of death, or when I hate somebody, that is really ahimsa. So, the three weapons, like we said, are this kayika, vachika, and manasa. And this can cause injury to others through hands or legs, which, of course, as we said, Bhagwan has given us with very good intention. And I need to use that in the proper way. But if I don't, and I'm trying to injure others, then that is not good. So too with my mouth, right? My words. Puja Swami Chinmayananda would say, this uh, tongue which has been given to us. this tongue through which I'm giving these words out, it's only 1.5 inches of really flesh, you know. And that 1.5 inches of flesh can cause so much of trouble, you know. Um, on a different note, too, I mean, the same 1.5 inches of flesh, for example, we sometimes may tend to even injure our own body through being, indulging in very tasteful food, tasteful snacks, oily food, sweets, all this, just this 1.5 inch of food, 1.5 inches of tongue. But that same thing, if you look at our entire body, does our gut know the taste of food? Does our stomach know the taste of food? Does any part of our body know the taste of food? It's only this 1.5 inches of my tongue, and that can cause even some himsa to our own body. That same 1.5 inches of tongue can also cause, hateful words. So that's why this a weapon of the tongue has to be used very, very carefully. So the same thing with the mind too. Hinsa is definitely possible even at the mind level. And I've mentioned this before too. Once to Troy, Balavihar, we had once Mahatma Gandhi's grandson who actually talked about 1 hour on this ahimsa, long time back. It was almost in the 90s, I think. I remember how much that at that until that moment, even for me, I would always think, ahimsa is something violence through hands, violence, through weapons. But he spoke really so passionately about the power of thoughts. And believe it or not, even for us, when somebody's thinking negative, somebody's having bad thoughts or whatever, and if that person is in the room, um, unknowingly we can get affected by it even though that person hasn't spoken, just the fact that that person has some bad thoughts can
Vibrations,
really.
right?
What is that, Jayashri?
The vibrations, right?
The
Affect,
vibrations,
right?
exactly, exactly. You hit the nail on the head,
Okay.
Jayashri. It is the vibes, you know. When some people say, I have some really good vibes about you,
Mhm.
you know, Uh, so at the thought level is probably where the word ahimsa really is most powerful, I think. Even at the thought level, I cannot afford to have any kind of bad thoughts, negative thoughts, hurtful thoughts, because at some point those thoughts
Will manifest.
can lead to words, and that words can lead to really action. And I can tell you, today, the younger generation, they don't realize, because they're not with the families. When you're with the families, you have the parents always telling them, stop using this kind of word and all that. But now that children are more and more away from this one, what I personally am seeing, because of my own work at the university and everything, I see more and more kids using bad language very, very easily. Almost, I mean, to an extent of, I would say 75% of the students use this bad language so easily that at sometimes the same bad words, bad language, is translating at some point, which is directing towards somebody in the family or whatever, and then that leads to, a fight, a simple fight. So you see how that whole thing is this one, and therefore, uh, at the university, at least, I'm taking a very strong stand against this use of bad language, you know, because bad language ultimately leads to this. So then this question might arise, why is ahimsa so very important? So, what is really the significance of this value? So, in simple words, the significance is I, through any of these three instruments, what I have, I cannot do anything to somebody which I don't expect somebody else to do to me. So simple, right? So it is just that basic, we call it as courtesy, but even courtesy is too much to say. It's a basic thing that I expect from anybody do not want anyone to be hateful towards me, even mosquitoes. Okay, this is the season for mosquitoes in India. There's plenty of them. But even these mosquitoes, I really don't want it to hurt me. Of course, we say it very easily, but are we really able to practice it? Sometimes not really, and we'll come to ahimsa can be looked at it sometimes a little controversial, and it might warrant some warrant some discussion here. But we will discuss about it that basically nobody should hurt me, which means that everybody has the same expectation that, I do not want to be hurt out here. So it is really a dharmic law, It is a universal law, and this is probably, one would say, is the simplest reason why ahimsa is very, very important. The second most thing is, if I do something to somebody, trust me, it will come back in some form or the other. This world, if you look at it, as vast as it seems like, there is that universal law, which is, you can call the law of karma here.
Right.
Whatever I do in this world, it is going to come back to me in some form or the other. Sometimes it may not come back from the same person to whom I do something. It may come from somebody else, because I may have moved my station to somewhere else. But even if I've moved somewhere else, whatever I did at some point to somebody, at some point, it will have to come back. Now, there's a very logical way also in which we look at it. The logic behind it is, I have now created a vasana within myself to hurt somebody, right? And I actually would have hurt somebody somewhere else. But that vasana in me has not left me. So when I go somewhere else, because I have not completed the loop in the sense that other person hasn't given back to me, that may leave some kind of a residue in my mind, and due to which I will reap back that whatever action I did in some form from somebody else. So this is actually absolutely true. This is a value which is something that we need to think about as another significant statement of ahimsa. Yeah, go ahead, Geeta.
If we don't even realize that we are
Mm.
doing something wrong, how do we know? One
Yes.
thing is, by consciousness, we will know that we are doing something wrong. That is knowingly doing something wrong. But sometimes we won't even realize that that is wrong and we do it. Then
Yes.
what happens?
I'm pretty sure there are some very good Tirukural Vasanam in this case, which might say that you got to hit on the wall at least 100 times before we realize, until I injure myself to such an extent that I sit back. Like, we say, right? Vedantam kicks in only when somebody is gone through some major calamity in their life. So, Bhagwan actually comes and tells us in small, small doses at some point, but for some of us who are not alert and are not into it, it requires a huge calamity to finally realize, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm the culprit, not somebody else. So you're right. It is a continuum of somebody who is extremely alert and who's conscious about. And that is why this aspect of alert living is so very critical. If I'm alert every minute, I can actually catch myself from not doing himsa to something or somebody. Yeah.
I have another question. See, people eat non-veg. They don't even realize they're hurting the animal, right? And from childhood, they would have learned to do it, and it won't even look like a harmful
Mhm.
thing for them,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
throwing
No, no. This
out.
ahimsa is directly connected to vegetarianism. No question about it, actually.
Mhm.
Um, this again, you're right. I mean, for people, and we know, especially in the United States, there are so many people who are used to eating non-veg, have consciously become vegan or consciously become a vegetarian. Even vegan, if you think about it, is a much more stronger form of vegetarianism, where you see that cows, for example, cows who are being slaughtered, not slaughtered, I would say, cows who are being transformed or modified through hormones or through some very physical
Feeding,
means to
by
give
feeding
greater
them.
production of milk, to give greater production of milk. And that is one of the big reasons why people are becoming vegan, not necessarily just because of allergy to milk products or anything like that. Yeah.
Also, cows are vegetarian cows, but they feed the cows non-veg stuff, I believe. That's okay. That's beyond our point anyway. Right.
Correct, correct. So vegetarianism is clearly that aspect of. Maybe I should have actually put one slide here and put some kind of thought-provoking questions. If necessary, we can come back to it another time on this one, because it is extremely important to realize that vegetarianism is definitely. Yeah, somebody wants to say something?
Hari Om.
Yeah, go ahead, Anand.
Yeah. Yeah, the point you mentioned, that Bhagavan gives us or alerts us in small doses,
Mhm.
right? It's a valid point, and we should stay alert to get those get
Signals.
that information at points.
To get
And
the signals, yes.
yeah, one more thing I just remembered as we pray to the God, at the end of the prayers we say Karacharana Kurtamva, the whole
Mhm.
sloka. And
Correct.
then in the sloka we say Vihitam Avihitam Va Sarvametat Kshamasva. I mean, there are things which I might have overlooked, which I did unknowingly. So please forgive me for those ones also.
Exactly, exactly. I'm so glad you brought this up, because many of these values is something that, by kind of having a journal at the end of the night, at the end of the day, where I'm looking and seeing, how was my behavior today? And I think Madhuri always brings up this point from mind. If you remember Madhuri in one of our study groups,
Yeah.
always talk about this, how uh,
Introspection. Yeah.
introspection of who did I unknowingly or knowingly.
Knowingly.
Um, so
Yeah.
Karacharna Kritam. Yeah,
Right, right, right. Yeah, we teach for the third graders, fourth graders.
correct, correct, exactly.
Yeah, it's very, so it has to be taught from the beginning.
It
Right,
has to be
Sunita?
taught from the,
Yeah.
yes, yes, to
Make them,
respect.
yeah,
Yes,
make them aware that, whatever you do, is that hurting them? How do you feel if that happens to
right.
you, kind of a thing? Yeah.
Correct, correct. And that is why this ahimsa, which I said, I should not do what I do not expect others to do. This is a simple law where
Yeah.
I'm learning to respect other people. Then, second, I realize that if I do hurt somebody, then this is going to come back to me. So I better be alert. And this is why, from the young age, in Balavihar and everything, we are feeding the mind stories of Prahlada and Dhruva, and kids who always did Om Namo Narayanaya, all these beautiful thoughts from the beginning, so that we are alert and we are always chanting Bhagwan's name. And so, the third, probably the perspective on this one is from the angle of psychology and Vedanta. So, the tendency sometimes to hurt others, we don't do it because we really want to. Sometimes there may be, but many times it is very impulsive. It's very impulsive and natural. It's also one may say. The you know we the reason is sometimes we have so much of expectations from people, sometimes from our own family members. Our neighbor, for example, should keep the lawn well so that my house will sell well. So, and then we have expectations from our children, our as I said, our own siblings, maybe even the government. We have all these expectations, and these expectations, if they're not fulfilled, then I get angry, you know. And we see that violence. We have seen that violence erupt even in the last couple of years. They basically are all about, I need this and this is, and so most of the time, we find that, when I have this extreme likes and dislikes, I expect that my expectations should be fulfilled, but when it doesn't get fulfilled and other people do not behave according to how I expect, then I get really angry about it, right? So, what basically the whole idea is, and I get into really rage. So, when these expectations are not fulfilled, the natural is that then I get hurt from this. So, non expectation, non fulfillment of expectation is bound to hurt me. And once I'm hurt, that immediate reaction which I get, because I didn't get it, I immediately create that himsa. So the psychology is, people hurt each other mainly because of this aspect. And when there is no gap between my injury and my causing this injury, so that leads to that impulsive nature by which I try to hurt others. So Vedanta is basically saying that when anybody does not behave this, and I automatically do this. And so you can see how much then I have to control in my mind in order to not make this himsa as very natural, you know. So I need to develop some kind of sensitivity from the beginning, as Madhuri rightly said, when the child is young, I develop some amount of sensitivity towards human beings. And when I'm sensitive to that, then I'm very careful as to what I'm saying, how I'm hurting other people. And in that sensitivity, I can actually feel the pain, what I am causing to others you know so that sensitivity is a very important aspect that we need to develop. So it's like a mother, the mother has a sensitivity towards the child, and a mother will never really hurt the child or beat the child or anything, because she knows what the pain she has gone through, and she will never do that. So that aspect of, so that is why Vedanta is really saying that one needs to develop the sensitive mind. And when I'm having that sensitive mind, then I automatically develop a sense of ahimsa towards everyone. Even if I see something on the TV, or somebody sends me a WhatsApp note or whatever, and somebody else's family has a death in the family or whatever, automatically even my heart gets goes out for them. So that is one big reason why it's all about love, actually. It's all about having the love for somebody. It's so ahimsa is at its extreme end when I'm directly connected to somebody, when I know the connection is there and I have the love, I will never ever hurt anyone. So from that point, ahimsa is a very, very powerful um, value. In self unfoldment, when we read, right? So we call this three values: brahmacharya, ahimsa, and satyam, at three levels, So satyam is at the intellect level, and brahmacharya is at the body level, and ahimsa is at the mind level. So at the mind level, I have that sensitivity and I don't hurt people. Yeah. So anything else people want to share about ahimsa?
How about compassion? How is that related to ahimsa?
Yeah, compassion is that sensitive mind. When
Okay.
I have a sensitive mind, I automatically exhibit that compassion
Thank
to
you,
people.
Sunitha. Okay.
Yeah. So when it comes to vegetarianism, again, the idea is, um, I mean, vegetarianism as a topic itself is a big topic where we can talk a lot about how, what the animal goes through
Yeah.
when it is being slaughtered or anything. And it is said that when the animal is being slaughtered, there are certain hormones that are generated within the animal's body, which is also kind of, I mean, of course, we cannot, there's no scientific proof or anything like that. But the point is now you're, eating something which only to satisfy our own taste buds of an animal which has gone through so much amount of pain. Why would I do something like this? So that's something to be thought about for vegetarianism versus non-vegetarianism. So the
Yes.
next one, yeah, go ahead.
Quick question, Sunita. So basically,
Yes.
we talked now about the mental mind level of hurting people and whatever,
That's right.
ahimsa.
Yes.
What about the
Yes.
physical violence?
So physical violence is a direct result of the mental violence that we have.
Not always, right? What about wars and everything? It's not like you are as a
Wars?
soldier, you're sent out or whatever. Is he committing an ahimsa by
No, no. So the thing is that, so this is okay. Yes and no, I would say, because just that example of surgeon that I gave, right? A
Yes.
surgeon has to sort of kill one part of the body to save another part of the body. So even a soldier, or even for that matter, we see the Mahabharata war, Pandavas versus Kauravas. So
Mhm.
many people are, I mean, Arjuna has been given the thing. And matter of fact,
Yeah,
think
he's
about
been
Arjuna.
told to fight and to kill.
He's been told to,
So
yes, exactly.
that's what bothers me sometimes. I'm like,
Right. Correct, correct.
So it's the
It's a very,
intention, right, Sunita?
it
It's
is,
but
it
the
is, a-
but the
intention.
intention is to defeat the Kauravas, right? Or the other
Dharma.
party. So
Dharma.
every country thinks their soldiers, I mean, they're fighting for a just cause. We can
correct.
see, everywhere so many wars going on now and everything. So
Yes.
how do we justify that? Whom are we going to say, okay, you're doing the right thing and he's doing the wrong thing? That's being very personal, not being objective at all. So
Correct, correct. So they are at different levels, I would say, at the level of existence. So, in Ahimsa, there is one thing which we didn't go into too much of detail, but there is Ahimsa is not like a zero-sum game, I mean, you can never really be at complete Ahimsa. There's always that level of where you are hurting something at some point in level. For example, even when I talked about mosquitoes, or when we talk about the Jains, for example, they have an extreme level of they'll have the mask also in the mouth because they don't want to kill the germs outside them. So if we take this at the level of what you were saying just now, Usha, what do we mean? How do we justify wars? How do we justify soldiers' role? The soldier, when he is told to do his act at the level of his responsibility, he is not really causing any himsa. But at the bigger level, when he's part of a bigger cause or something, he's definitely causing some kind of himsa. That is true. But so this is where it becomes sometimes ahimsa is it requires that kind of a discussion and understanding. Is if I take it at the individual level, if I do a certain action and it causes some amount of a prick of a conscience of my conscience, then I have created some kind of himsa. So if I take it at that level, now even for a soldier, if he thinks a little more on what his role is, I mean, certainly the soldier will have to seriously think for himself or herself, what is he or she doing in that particular role? And if he or she feels strongly about it, he will definitely take a better decision for that for himself. But is a fight necessary at some point? I would say yes, a fight is necessary because for the same example that I gave about the weeds and everything, you know, uh, if it is for a higher cause, of course, now one may argue, who is to determine what is the higher cause? That is something that only sort of time will tell, and also something which through our own independent sadhana, we can actually have an idea as to whether this thing is right for me or not. So, ahimsa can definitely, open up a big can of worms, but I do think there is responsibility at the individual level that each person has to take, and the responsibility at the community level or responsibility at the organization level. Each one of us, we have that ability to make the choice, and what is right or wrong, what is dharmic or adharmic, is something that every individual has to deal with for themselves. What do you think? Does it make sense? I mean, ultimately, it is at the individual level.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's no right or wrong. I mean, like, how can you, yeah, there's a lot of gray area about it, but definitely, yeah.
No,
Yeah, actually, there is not a gray area. Like I
I
said
do
again, it is
feel
at the
that.
individual. Yes,
Mm.
yeah.
no,
See,
in
because at an individual level, if you say a soldier, he signs up for whatever, and then he's asked to go, he doesn't have a choice. He cannot just back out in the last minute and say, what about his bills? What about his, he has other responsibilities going. So, yeah, he's, whether they like it or not, whether all of these ICE people, they're all part of the thing. They have to go there. They have to do that. They're not, I mean, most people feel they're not doing the right thing. But, all these are very, in my opinion, it's a gray area. Like, can they just stop doing that? They have lives to live too. So, so.
No, every individual, Usha, at the end of the day, have their own right to make the decision. The only point about it is how mature is that individual to make the choice for
No, it
themselves.
should also be conducive. Their environment should, like, I'm just talking about basically because we watch so many of these incidents happening in Minneapolis with these ICE agents. They're all government employees.
Correct.
How can,
Correct.
they have their own responsibilities too, as, for whatever. They just can't
Yes.
say, okay, this is, I'm going to give up my job and go away. I mean, how can they just do that? They may have so many things going on in their lives. They need their paycheck. They need all of those things. So there are certain things that you just can't do.
No, but when they enter itself, they know the pros and cons of a job, no?
Uh,
When they
Not
become a
really, right?
soldier, they know the pros and cons.
Yeah, but then who will defend your country if you think that? I mean, like, when you take any country like, Russia, Ukraine wars, or whatever, any of the Gaza and Israel, whatever, there are so many. I mean, all this is like political. We shouldn't be getting into the politics of it. But in general, when you sign up, whatever, they have their own economic reasons or whatever, patriotic reasons or whatever for joining. But what, you just can't say when you're, asked, when you're deployed, you just can't say, oh, okay, this is not right, I'm not going to do it. That doesn't happen that way. So basically, for me, it's like, who is in, like, like they always say, one man's view of a terrorist is another man's, another country's view of a hero, right? You can view somebody as a terrorist, other person can say, oh, this is a brave soldier. So it's
So at the end of the day, Usha, we all have a choice. Even the soldier actually has an individual choice on what he or she wants to do when he is being deputed to go for a war. The only point is how much of knowledge does that person have on what his role, how his role is going to um, help him or help this country. So when the person's role and when the person's knowledge is not very clear, then that is where it leads to all the controversies. And again, simple thing is about Arjuna. Arjuna is a classic example of that. When he entered into the war, he was not clear about his role. He just went with the flow, and he went with the flow that he's this great warrior. He's going to, fight for his family of Pandavas, and he was going to do it. So Krishna actually gives him the clarity on why he's doing it. And I think this why is really the most important question that the soldier has to ask for himself as to why is he getting into this fight. And it is a question for all of us too when we take, maybe not for a soldier, but why am I doing what I'm doing in this particular station? It's a very, very powerful question that we have to ask and reflect upon it. And for the sake of soldier, that is the most important thing. And that can bring clarity to his role and what he has to do. Yeah.
I have a thought. What Usha was saying, exactly it went through my mind. But a week back when I was watching the TV, the soldiers, I mean, the ice people were standing in the line. One lady goes and tells them, don't you understand you're doing the sin to the people? You're not supposed to do this. Don't do this. She was advising to them. She was talking Vedanta to those soldiers. She was saying, you're not supposed to do, you're not doing the right thing. Please don't do it. And when she was explaining, I was thinking, how can she telling those people about will change their mind? But I completely understand Usha. Then I used to think, so in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that you have to fight, right? Likewise, for them, the government is telling them to fight. So they are fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Look, even if the government tells you to fight, do you really need to fight?
No, but same thing, right? Here we are all very pro Arjuna, saying when Krishna is saying, telling Arjuna, go fight, we're saying, hey, that is the right thing for Arjuna to do. So why are we saying that for these people, where the government is telling them to go fight, it's not right? It's they feel their patriotism to their country. So that's a great thing too, So
Well, that's a fundamental question. Then they have to
yeah.
ask
Mm-hmm.
themselves. Where does my loyalty lie? Is it and yeah.
Yeah, I think we should. That's fine. Yeah, let's go
No.
on.
It's
No,
besides, but all this, whatever we read, comes to my mind when I watch the situation which is going on in the United States. I used to think, is that
right.
right or what is happening?
Yeah, I mean, not just in the United States, all over the world,
Yeah,
all over the
everywhere.
world, which is happening. We seriously have to think about it. And that's why ahimsa is, we have to understand ahimsa in its true sense, which is, and it is again it starts with at the individual level. If at the individual level, if I'm very clear about what this value means, that brings a clarity which can guide me in my role as a soldier, in my
Mm-hmm.
role as, the general, so many different areas. Okay, so next is this value of kshanti. So kshanti, this is not shanti, by the way. Shanti is peace, but this is kshanti with the K. So what is kshanti? This is essentially an attitude of, one may call as forgiveness, but this is active forgiveness, not a passive forgiveness. Okay. Sometimes, we say, oh, just this forgiveness, which I think the classic Mahatma Gandhi statement, if somebody shows you on one cheek, show the other cheek. It's not just, I mean, I'm just taking just that line, but I'm sure when Mahatma Gandhi said that there's a lot more deeper thought to it than what I just said. But the point about it is not a passive forgiveness. It actually comes from a very high level of what we call this as titiksha. Titiksha is that sense where I'm able to bear anything and tolerate anything, and I'm still forgiving this person. So if I don't have this, this is a very powerful quality because, we all are put in situations where I may be in a meeting with my boss, for example, my boss is giving me my performance appraisal, and, I'm done so well, but, he's just uh, telling me all these things that I didn't do, so I can get really angry at that point, and by getting angry, I can actually lose my balance and everything. So Krishna actually uses this as a way to tell us about how this value can help us be balanced, um, all the time. So, one meaning of Shanti probably one can look, like I said, it's forbearance or tolerance. And but it is also essentially a mental resistance or immunity that I develop within myself, where no matter what happens outside, I am not bothered. But I'm not bothered, not from a sense of, again, passive way, but actively I understand that there are certain things which are beyond my control. It's like that serenity prayer, right? Serenity is what, I forget the whole, there's only three lines, God give me the strength to uh, not, I mean, I'm just extrapolating this meaning, but is God give me the strength to bear with what I cannot change, and give me the strength to change what I really can do it. But most important, God give me the wisdom to know the difference. You know, when should I really exert myself to change? When should I not? And know what the difference is. So, Kshanti is that ability to remain calm in situations where I know that the situations are way, way beyond my control. And even though I have this great expectations for my performance appraisal, and even if I don't get it, I can really be understand. I have that ability to understand where my boss is coming from. So it means that development of that mental immunity in such a way that I do not allow my external circumstance to disturb my mind, and I remain that equal aspect of it. So that is the whole aspect of this thing. So it is, as I said, it is about the titiksha. Titiksha means acceptance of all situations which comes into my life, which did not come to me because of what I did. There are some situations which are completely beyond, which I never expected it would go, that way. So even though we think we have control over many things, but yet we know that there are many, many things which is way beyond my control, which is beyond that. And so that is what titiksha is. Titiksha is that really ability control, and I'm putting this as one line because we are going through lives every day. Every day I get up and we expect, oh, okay, let everything go the way I want it to go. But one never knows. Like, for example, what you're going through right now with the amount of snow. Did you really expect that you would have so much amount of snow to deal with? So there you really exhibit this aspect of kshanti. So it is aspect of acceptance of all situations, uh, acceptance of all people in my lives, acceptance of all periods of time. How can I maintain that equanimity? So it is an acceptance. And so when we think about acceptance itself, right? So there are basically two ways on which I can accept. One is an healthy acceptance and of things, but the other one is an unhealthy acceptance. So what is this unhealthy acceptance? It is basically, we basically understand that whatever I cannot, whatever is not within my control, whatever I cannot cure it, I have to endure it. Okay, that endurance is with complete understanding that, and there is actually a logic behind it. We don't think about the logic, but when I think deeply, I recognize that I am a small part in this universe in the midst of so many things. And I always, when I'm traveling by flight, when you look at the magazine and it shows you, the flights going out of, say, Detroit, you have 50, 100 flights going, and they go to Atlanta. There's another 50, 100 flights. And then from Atlanta to somewhere, New York. Imagine if, and this happens to me quite often, I go to the airport and I find the flight is delayed, and they'll always give me this example, always give me this excuse, the flight from Chennai did not come to Kochi on time. Why didn't the flight from Chennai did not come? Because the flight from Lucknow to Chennai did not come. And but here I'm sitting and I'm getting frustrated. My goodness, I'm getting delayed. But there were so many parameters that has happened to prevent me from leaving, right? I don't think about all that. If I only know, and that example of that flight and hub has always stood with me. That one page in that flight magazine, at one point I really cut it out and I kept it in front of me to say that life is like that. There are so many, what should I say?
Right.
Yes, so many parts which has to come together for something to work out. And this thing struck me even like, January 9th was Jayant's wedding, Sudha Krishnan's son. So we came to know that his wedding is on January 9th, maybe a year ago. Again, this thought always, I'm so amazed that, 2 years before we plan the weddings and everything, okay? So what is the guarantee that everything will go well 2 years from now? There are so many aspects. Wars can happen, health. So many things can go wrong with health, all this. But yet something happens on that particular day and that particular muhurtam, and everything goes so beautifully. How is that possible? So that when if I'm able to understand and accept how these things go, why can I not accept and endure through things that did not go that well? You know, I cannot expect that everything will go exactly according to how I want it. So that acceptance, if I'm able to have it, which purely it is out of logic and purely out of understanding, and this is where, I look at Ishwara Kripa, at the end of the day, Bhagwan is the one who's the ultimate controller of all things. I'm not the one who's controlling everything. There is a sense of an acceptance that comes into me. And so I love this value of Shanti, It puts me into a frame of mind where I'm accepting things which are beyond my control. And when I accept it wholeheartedly, there is a sense of equanimity that comes into me, and I'm at Shanti, So that is what Shanti is really. So I recognize that I cannot change my past. I don't know what is happening in the future, but I am in this moment, in the present. Let me make full use of it and move ahead, with taking this Udaredatmanatmanam, which is I, whatever is within my control, I will do it. I will move ahead with this patience. So, idea is to develop patience in the present, and idea is to have that acceptance. And it really is a huge stress buster if you think about it, you know, by developing that value of Kshanti. Geeta, you wanted to say something? Oh, okay. Okay, so I think we will move on to Arjavam next week. But please do think a little more on these two values of ahimsa and kshanti. Both of them are probably a little controversial in its own way, but I think all these values are so amazing because it really, by practicing that, it gives us that freedom towards self-realization or moksha. Okay, we will go to find the.
Just
Yeah, go ahead.
when we go through these values, we understand and we think that we should follow it. But when the situation comes, we always think, why me, right?
Yeah,
No, we don't. I don't think why me, and thinking why is it happening? No, why me? It doesn't matter. Those days are gone. Why is it happening? That comes.
right. No, but why is it happening? If you, like I gave that example of that, and you know that better, Geeta, is, the flights coming at so many different places, originating out of so many places. There are so many variables that need to come together
Mhm.
to do what I may put all my effort, but then there is somebody else who's also putting a lot of effort in an opposite way. I have no idea about what's happening. And classic, you're going through it right now in America. You know, we all have put so much amount of effort, but unknowingly to us, unknown to us, there was another huge group who's putting effort in a different direction. That is very powerful. Will that last for a long time? No, it's not going to last. We know that. But at this moment in time, I'm the
Feels
one
like
who's
that.
being affected. I happen to be in the center of that controversy, or I happen to be in the center of that hurt. You know, if I'm alert and this one, I will change a little bit of my ways to get out of that chakra vyuha, if you want to say it. But what do we do? Because we've been so habituated, and this is another major thing that at some point we need to talk about how we build our habits. And ultimately, the habits are the ones which kill us and prevents us from taking those decisions to get out of the chakra vyuha and act accordingly. So that why me syndrome is a creation of our own effort. You know, we did not pay attention, or we did not put the effort at the right time.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes, why I am thinking, one of our relative, they're very well to do, and they had planned the wedding, such big wedding and everything outdoor, this and that. And it was pouring, the rain was pouring so much. That's one day event for that person, whoever is getting married. So
Correct.
was raining so heavily, so they could not. I mean, it was such a disappointment for them. That's why I was feeling, why is it happening for them like that? That's just a thought.
Yes. I mean, recently in December, the first week of December, when the Indigo flights, they
Yes,
went through a
yes.
major issue, right? At that time, I
You
heard
missed
of a
it.
couple of weddings that was done over Zoom. Literally they did because
Oh, because
nobody
people
could
could not.
travel.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we had weddings
Could
in
not
Zoom and during COVID time also. So
Right.
Correct. Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
Madhu's wedding was that way. We didn't even go. We just watched in Zoom. My son's
Yes,
wedding. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, these are not in our hands. But rain, always you should have plan B. I'm sorry. If you're planning an outdoor wedding, it's like
No, in
it's
India they have this pandal, right?
no, but still it just pours through that.
I know. Oh my God.
Yeah, even for Sanjay's reception, they were suggesting an outdoor this thing, and every single day that I was there, it rained in Hyderabad. I said, I'm not taking the chance. We're going to have it only in an indoor thing. And it did rain that day on the day of the reception. Though everybody said, oh, that time no rains. But
Never
Yeah.
know. It's okay.
Yeah.
We have to deal with it. That's it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Mhm.
Okay, we'll complete here. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ. This beautiful prayers we have Sarve Bhavantu and everything. If we keep praying that, nothing will happen, we'll automatically be peaceful.
So that's the sankalpam.
Sankalpa, exactly.
Intention. Yeah.
Yes. See you then. Hari Om.